Okay, so today I'm going to start out first thanking everybody for attending today and struggling with us here at the beginning. We apologize for that, but I think we're going to take off here on tools of family search. I have to apologize. The last time I did a presentation on family search was in 2018. I think it was in October of 2018 at our local library. And I used to do workshops, or many of our members would do workshops over at the library, and it was hands-on. Our members or guests would bring computers and laptops, and they would work with us as we presented. That's gonna be a little impossible here today using Zoom, much to my chagrin. I wish you were on a computer or can use it, but you have to use your screen to watch and learn about the tools of family search. Hopefully you have the handout that was attached to the email with the address to enter in here. If you didn't, my email is on this screen, nrobertson@twc. And you can email me and ask for a copy of a handout if you didn't receive one. And I gladly will send that to you. So today you probably are going to watch the screen, maybe take some notes. This presentation is good for both the beginner and the experienced genealogist. Hopefully for the beginner, it's going to get you excited. You can find some records. Maybe you can start your tree online here. And for the experienced genealogist, hopefully you'll find one or two tools that will help you drill a little deeper to find a record that you've been searching for, or a document that will help you prove a relationship or support your data. So let's get started here. I'm gonna flip my little, see if I can progress. All right, does everybody see a white screen that says records? Okay.
Yes.
All right, this is kind of what I want to accomplish today in the presentation, is how to find records using FamilySearch.org, which is a free site. And we're going to search for records using some of the tools. One is the historical records. One is how to use Wiki. There's my little red. One will be how to use the tool of the catalog to find records. And another will be how to use Family Search's family tree. And we'll talk about the love-hate relationship people have with this tree eventually. The last half of my presentation is going to be about how you can preserve your own personal records and personal photos and attach them to the family tree. Or maybe if you don't connect to the tree, you can use their tool of memories just to store your photos and your documents as a backup. And let me announce again, it's free storage. It's not like paying a company to back up your data. It's a way to take your historical photos and documents and find and save them in a lovely place here where you can access them online. Inside of Memories, I'll show you how to create albums to categorize some of those photos and documents. And we'll talk a little bit about how to attach them to the family tree. So our big, the goal is to talk about records and find records. And so let's move. A little bit about Family Search. Family Search is operated and owned by the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Sometimes we know them better as the LDS or the Mormon Church. And they've had a big interest in family history for years. It's strongly connected to their church. If you have used the family history centers that they offer at some of their churches around the US and really around the world, it used to be we would get online, order a film that would have information we think our ancestors would be in. We'd order that film, pay for postage, and it would come into the Family History Center. And then we'd go over and use that film. And for years, that's what most of us did with the church and the site here. But in 2017, as many of you know, they discontinued all their microfilm service. The reason for this is they proceeded to digitize, or work at digitizing, it is a work in progress, the microfilm, the microfiche, and many of their books. and put them on their website, Family Search, where you can access those digital records. The church continues to digitize records around the world, and they have billions of records that are digitized. This picture here shows a woman who is using a record book, and she is digitizing what is in that book, and then they put it on their website. The big issue with using FamilySearch.org versus a website that you pay for like Ancestry is not all their records are indexed. You pay the big bucks for Ancestry, Find My Past, My Heritage, because all their records have been indexed. You just fill in a search window and it pops you into collections that match that search. I'm going to have to work with you today to show you how you can drill into some of their digital records here on Family Search that aren't indexed. But there are many that are. So we're going to start with those to start with. And first, once you log in to FamilySearch.org, you would go to this home page with this cute young man holding the picture, I think, of his grandfather. This banner will change. So if you log in a month from now, it could possibly be a different photo here. But you would know if you're at the site by their logo over here on the far left, and also their sign in over here. So that's what you would have to do to use the site, is sign in. If you haven't registered, you need to create an account. And I always warn people that they want you to register because this is an interactive site. When you use the tool Wiki, people can interact with it. When you use the tool of Family Tree, you're adding information and you're adding photos to memory. Registering on their site protects it. It gives them some security, and they check what you're putting in just prior to posting it. So they're not going to sell your name. They're not going to send you emails unless it's a personal question about researching. It is to provide security. So you want to sign in if you've already registered, or if you haven't, create an account to start with. So we're going to move to the very first tool, and that's their tool of historical records. And we're going to see if we can search for a record there. So up at the top here, once I sign in, this would be my sign in page, and it's personal. If you notice at the bottom down here, it says John Edward Simmons, and then there's a death. That's my family. So you can personalize your home page. My photo is over here on the far right, where I can set up my account, change my password, whatever. But over here is the menu bar. And that's how you navigate through Family Searches, through this main menu bar. You can click on the Family Search icon at any time to get back to this home page. Here's the family tree. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. We're going to be drilling into this search key right here. And then later on, we're going to talk about memories. Indexing is a way you can give back to FamilySearch.org. Since it is a free site, they have projects you can work on for indexing. Activities is a new tool they've added, and it is family activities that you can do with yourself, with family members, and there's some special ones there just for younger children to get excited about looking at their family history. So you might want to look at that eventually too, especially if you have grandchildren, children that you want to kind of get involved with your research. So we're going to move on, and the very first thing we're going to do is go up to this search tab and click on it. When you do, there's a drop-down menu with 7 entries: records, images, family trees, and so on. And we're going to start out with records. That's the very first one we're going to go to today. And when you click on that, you're going to go to this historical records search window. Okay, now right away I want to show you there's this map over here on the right side. The map is there because Family Search digitizes and has records from all over the world, not just the United States. They have Canadian, they have British Isles, they have German, many European. And the last conference I went to where the CEO was speaking from Family Search, one of their biggest projects right now is digitizing records in India. So if you wanted to search outside of the United States, you might want to come over to this map and click on the continent, and then you can drill into this country and to the area of that country. But today we're going to research on historical records here in the US. And I have to apologize, I'm going to, for those guests today who are from out of state of Kentucky, I'm going to use one of my only few ancestors who came into Kentucky, and I'm going to use him as my little case study today to teach you how to use this tool of historical records. So I'm going to deal with an ancestor of mine named Henry Putman. Henry came into Mason County, Kentucky. So I'm going to research. Henry is here at the turn of the 19th century. He moved into Kentucky in the mid-1790s, and he dies about 1825. Now, those are some pretty hard years to research. It's hard to find collections where you can just put in a name and find information. Now, Ancestry does have wills, and that's a good place to search for a will for Henry Putman. But I've checked his will. His will has a couple children listed, but he had 11 children, and I need to find the one that's my direct ancestor. So I'm going to show you how to use a few tools to find an ancestor, especially from this time period. Later on, when you get to the 1850s to the 1920s, you have census records, but you also start having birth and death records that are being recorded. So we're going to show you here how to search, and I'm going to search by residence. I know he lived in Mason County, Kentucky. Okay, I'm not sure what records exist for him at that time period, so I'm going to go with his residence. And so I'm going to skip over his birthplace. I'm pretty sure it's Virginia, but I'm going to go with his residence. I know he lived in Mason County, Kentucky. And I'm going to go 1790 to 1830. I know he wasn't here in 1790 because I've tried to join First Families of Kentucky, and you have to be here before 1792, I believe, and he wasn't. He shows up, I think, about 1795, 97. I tell researchers, always buffer your range 5 to 10 years on both ends. So I'm going to back up to 1790. I assume he died about 1825, so I'm going to go 5 more years there. And then you can select a relationship. Now, you don't want to put too much information in here, or it narrows it down. I want a broad search because I'm in a time period there's not going to be a lot of records. But I do have an ancestor named John Smith. And when I research for John Smith, I always click on spouse because his spouse's maiden name was Dingman. And that helps me out to filter through the thousands of John Smiths who might have lived in New York. So if you have a real common name, you might want to put the spouse's name in, or you might want to put the mother's if you know her maiden name. But in this case, I'm not going to put either, okay? And so I'm going to hit the little search key at the bottom, and it's going to pop us into the search results. And right away, we see not too many results. We see an 1820, 2 1820s, and 1830, and it's in Mason County, so this probably is my ancestor. This one, born in 1815, I know right away. It could be a relative, it could be a son, but it's not my man that I'm looking for. And then this bottom one is definitely not him. So I'm interested in these census records. So I'm going to go over here, and we're going to look over here on the right side. These icons are really important. The little pedigree icon will take you into the family tree and show you where Henry Putman would be in a family tree, if he's been entered in their family tree. And he might be entered several times. That is a complication with their family tree we'll talk about in a few minutes. The second icon is a little paper. It looks like a loose leaf page with a corner. That contains the transcript of the record, the citation of the record, which is really important, and any other pertinent information. And then the camera, we get excited when we see the little camera because the camera tells us there's going to be a digital photo of that record. So I believe I'm going into the 1820 census. So when I hit on that camera, it brings me up to this page here. And this has lots of tools too. Here's the transcript. In the 1820 census, we know only has the head of household. then it has all these little tick marks for males or females in the age groups that live in there. But this does confirm that this Henry Putman is living in Mason County, and he's on page 62 of the 1820 Mason County Census. So that's important for my citation. But look down here, here's the actual citation. So we've got the transcript and we've got the citation. If you save your records digitally, you want to copy this citation and put it somewhere near the document. I often use the citation in the name of the document. I'll abbreviate a lot of things to be able to fit it in there. But maybe you have somewhere else you're going to keep your citations. Beginners, you want to start recording citations right away because that firms up your data, and it also helps you prove that your ancestor did live there, and here's the record to show, and you can go right to it. The next thing that this page shows you is there is an original digital copy of the 1820 census here. And so I'm going to pop into that. And I have a cropped page from that 1820 census. There'd be more to this page, but I wanted you to see where Henry's at. And he's down here with another Henry Putman, and it's a junior. So right away, for beginners, junior doesn't necessarily mean he's the son. It could mean he's just the younger Henry Putman that's living in this area. Excuse me. It could be a nephew, could be a grandson. We would have to do more research to find that out. And here's the tick marks. And I'm pretty sure this column right here is males 45 and older. So that would be pretty much firms up that this possibly could be my Henry Putman. He's got a couple females here and then a wife that's over 45, and she's there. So this is a good document that I would want to add to my research to prove that my Henry was living in Mason County. And then it would give me some other things to research further. Who is Henry Putman Jr.? Who is this wife that's living with him? Does she have a name? Is it his wife? We don't know. It doesn't say that on this 1820 census. So let's wrap it up. You can go to historical records. You can throw in a name. You can throw in a location. If you're zeroing in more because you want a death certificate, you might want to put the death and add the date of the death. You can add relatives. And then when you hit that search button, it's going to bring up items in collections that possibly could be your ancestor that you could seek out. Okay, so we're going to go to the next tool to work on, and that's the tool of Wiki. So how do you find records on a wiki? First of all, what is a wiki? A wiki, to me, is like an encyclopedia. And the wiki on Family Search is an online genealogy encyclopedia. It gives you information on topics, and it gives you locations in collections that could be in certain locations. Okay, you won't search for surnames here. It also gives you reference information. Let's say you're researching the Quaker religion. You could put Quaker in the search window for Wiki, and it's going to pull up references that you could read up on Quaker religion. It could bring up collections in certain states that had Quaker records, and then you could search if you knew which state your ancestor lived in. At the bottom here, it's best to research by location or topic. Again, I have to emphasize, you're not going to research surnames here. So I would take Henry Putman, who I know lived in Mason County, Kentucky, and I would use his location of his residence, again, to research. So we're going to go up to the search button up here at the top on the home page, or top on almost every page you're at here as you're on Family Search. And instead of records, we're going to go to the bottom. This could be why not many people use the wiki, and they should, because it's listed here at the very bottom of this search pull down tab. So we're going to click on Research Wiki, and when we do, it takes us to the research page, the search window, or search page for Wiki. And again, there's a map of the world. Okay, so remember, Family Search has got records from all over the world, and you can drill in by clicking on the continent you want, In fact, it says here, find the birth, death, or marriage or census record for your ancestor by selecting the region or the county below. So you could start by clicking on the North America, selecting a state, selecting a county. We're going to start using their search window. It's a real tiny little window there, but I use that most of the time when I'm searching. And we're going to put in Mason County, Kentucky, and see what we can find. So it takes you to the Mason County, Kentucky Genealogy Wiki page. Now, I'm showing you the top part of this page. This goes down about 6 screens, and I'm going to show you piece by piece working through this. Most counties are set up this way. Some counties have much more information on them than others. Again, this is a wiki, so people can add, Family Search can continue to add to it. So what's here at the top of this wiki page, to start with, is the courthouse. So as a researcher, if you have an ancestor in a certain county that's lived there very many years, you're certainly going to want to either call that courthouse or go visit it. And if you're going to visit, you're going to call, because you want to find out what hours genealogists can research. I have a county in Michigan I go up to. I traveled up on a Wednesday. I got there, and guess what? I knocked on the door, went to the county clerk, and she said, we only let genealogists research on Tuesdays. So I had to come back another time to research there. So you want to call the courthouse if you're going to make a visit, find out when their hours are and when they allow genealogists to come in and research. There's a phone number and a website. And then you might want to call, just maybe you're looking for a record they have and you've checked it out, you've got an index number, a certificate number. They might even email it to you if you cross your fingers, or let you know how much it's going to cost. So courthouse records or courthouse data is real important. Another area that's important is over here on the right. What's the county seat? When was it organized? Well, this is an old county in Kentucky. It was organized in 1788. But if by chance Henry had migrated into Mason County, let's say in the early 1780s, I would have to go to the parent county, because Mason County hadn't been formed yet, and the parent county would be Bourbon. So I would have to look in Bourbon County. Also listed here are the neighboring counties. So he had 11 kids, and guess what? A couple of them would travel to the neighboring county to marry a girl who lived over there, especially Lewis County, and I think I have a few in Bracken County. So I can click right on those. These are hot buttons to take me right to their wiki pages, okay? Another thing that's important, oops, before we get to that, I want to look here. Beginning dates for major records. Kentucky is very wonderful because it starts some of their birth records as early as 1852. Most states in the United States, their counties started being mandated to do birth and death records about the turn of the 20th century, 1900 to 1910. Kentucky started earlier, but not every county did, and not all the counties kept complete records. So they have some birth records, but not all. Marriages usually are always done in most counties and start about the time the county was formed. And then you've got deaths, court records. That's where you would go to find court proceedings, different kind of issues that courts would settle. And hopefully your ancestor took somebody to court and you could find a record there. Deed records. Notice 1789, a year after the county was formed. Guess what? Deed records tell you who owns the land, and that's where the taxes come from. So even when a courthouse had a fire, guess what book they grabbed out of the courthouse to save? They would try to grab that deed record book, because that's how they got their taxes. So deed records are really good for genealogists, and most of the time you can find some old deed records in counties based on their formation date. And then you have probate records, which are great. You can have settlement papers, estate papers, administrative bond papers, wills, and then of course, what years were the census taken? Down at the bottom of this page, again, what year were we formed and where's the county seat? So I'm going to scroll for you and show you a clip from what they have on probate and tax records. More experienced genealogists are usually have looked to find records on their ancestor, and when they can't find birth, death, even sometimes you can't find the marriage, if you know they died in a certain county, you want to research and see if you can find probate records. And so here in Mason County, you've got probate records that are indexed for 5 counties, which isn't a whole lot because Kentucky has 120 counties. So for these 5, you could just go to a search window and plug in your ancestor's name. For others, you're going to have to click on the probate record pop button here, select the county, and then select maybe a couple years that you want to research to see if you can find and go through those books. Also, Family Search Wiki has sites other than their own. Notice here's Ancestry and here's Kentucky Pioneers. They'll record wherever they find collections of Kentucky records, and for this it would be for Mason County. So I could go to Ancestry if I have a subscription and look for wills, okay, or a will book here. I could access Family Search. So it not only tells you what Family Search has, what collections, but what collections are out there on other websites. Some list state archives that have digital records, libraries, so you want to look there. Tax records here. So we've got the probate records. Here's the tax records. Mason County does not have a census for 1790 or 1800, so tax records are the backup here. And again, remember, they tax, that's how they get their revenue, so there are going to be tax records in this early time period. So that would be a good place for me to go look for Henry. If I scroll down further, I'm going to get to where there's a list of collections for birth, marriage, and deaths. So here's the birth collections. Notice it's Family Search, and here's a MyHeritage collection. So if you happen to have a subscription to MyHeritage, you could click into that. Also, I want to plug our Family History Center, which is closed right now due to the pandemic. But when it does open, or wherever you live, you want to find a Family History Center. Most of them offer these paid websites for free. And if you go into their center and use their computers, their portal, you could access these records. So you might want to do that just to see if they have a record you could use. Here's the marriage records, oodles of those. Like I said, most marriage records are kept from the time the county was formed, if they didn't have a burned county. And you have many here, Find My Past. Most of these are Family Search. And then down at the very bottom, you've got deaths. And you can access through there. So again, see, you don't put in your ancestor's name. You look for the location and then look for collections that you could click on, enter, and then search for your ancestor. The very bottom of this wiki page has societies in Mason County. And this is really good if you're going to visit. That's one reason why you would want to know what societies. They have a Mason County Historical Society here, and they have a Mason County Genealogical Society. Another reason you might want to know about these types of societies is instead of traveling there, you might want to access, here the museum's got a website, and ask them what records they might have. And some of these small societies and historical and genealogical will actually look up a record maybe for you and email it to you. So it's a way to talk to other genealogists who are researching and live in the area you're interested in, and a way for you to communicate with them. So that's kind of a nice feature. And then websites. Websites down here kind of broaden your research. They have some old ones on here, but you can still access them. Here's the Kentucky Archives, where you would want to enter and go see what collections they have. Do they have any digital records online? So this is all of what you would find on a wiki page for a location. Also, remember, I told you you can search by topic. So let's say you're researching the War of 1812. You might want to put that in and see what collections they have. And if you're from Kentucky, who was quite active in the War of 1812, they have several collections. So you want to look at those. So far we've learned how to research using the family or the historical records and wiki. So the next one we're going to go to, if I can advance this. There we go, is the catalog. Okay, the catalog is another great tool that's often overlooked. where you can go to find records. So we're going to show you again. You're going to go up to the search button, but before we do, the catalog has a collection of microfilm, microfiche, and printed books that the Family History Library has. Family History Library is the mecca of FamilySearch.org. It is the physical building that exists in Salt Lake City, where in the past LGS travels the third week in September, and we're kind of grieving the loss of that trip this year. But you can get online, and more of those records are being digitized, and you can find them in the catalog. Again, just like Wiki, you want to research sometimes by location. So example, Pike County, Illinois. But you can also, just like most categories, you can, catalogs, you can research by a surname. Now, my family doesn't have a whole lot of books written about them. We were not that famous. We didn't have writers in the family, obviously, and they haven't put together too many books. So I don't get too many hits when I search by surname. But if I search by location, I can find, again, collections that are in that location. You can research by a title of a book, an author of a book. So let's say you saw a book in a county library somewhere where you were researching, you wrote down the name of it. You can get on Family Search and see if they have that as a digital book, or where you could locate it. So those are all ways you can search a catalog. So we're going to go to that main search window at the top, search menu, and we're going to search for catalog, which is down towards the bottom here. And I'm just going to give you a little background on Henry here, although I have, and then we're going to go search the catalog for Henry again. So we know he was born in Virginia around 1745, 48. He moves to Mason County. He's married to Elizabeth Kendricks. He has 11 children. He died in 1826. And I know his will. I have it, November 1826. What I need, and this would be a record I would need if I wanted to join like DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution. Sometimes lineage societies are what pull us to find these very accurate records to prove our data. But we have to also prove relationship. And my direct ancestor is Thomas Putman, who's the son of Henry. And guess what? Henry had 11 children. And by the time he dies, 9 of those 11 children have already left Kentucky. There was a huge migration out of Kentucky, the early part of the 1800s, and 9 of his children left. So my research has led me to believe that there is a deed that lists his children, and I want to see if Thomas is listed. How do I know this? Well, I've checked other people's trees on Ancestry and the tree on Family Search. I do have a book written by a Putman ancestor, one of the few books I have on my family line, and all of them give the hint or the inclination that there is a deed record, but nobody's got a copy of that deed. So we're going to use the catalog to see if we can find that deed. So we're going to go to the catalog search page. And here again, you can search by place, surname, title, author, keywords. I'm going to search by place. I'm going to search again for Kentucky. And here's a note you might want to write down as you're listening to me here. When you search on the Family Search catalog, you start with, when you're doing a place, you start with the biggest municipality. So you could put United States, comma, Kentucky, comma, and then the county. And if you were researching, let's say in a bigger city like Louisville, you could even add that, because they probably do have records specifically for Louisville. But you want to start from the bigger municipality to the smaller. And so when you click on search, you go to this page that lists all the collections that they have, or these are categories. See this little parentheses over here on the right? That shows you how many collections they have for that category. So they have 1 collection of Bible records, 12 collection of different court records, and I want to go to land and property, and there's 9. Now, as a beginning researcher, you might want to look at books that have been printed out by, let's say DAR has done a lot of books that have marriage records, sometimes death records, cemetery records, and those are great to collect the date you need, but if you're joining a lineage society, you can't use those as documentation. So you want to get, when you go here, you want to find collections that are directly from the courthouse. And so here's all the categories, but right here are deeds. And notice it says Kentucky, and this is the courthouse. Okay, if I drop down to this one, it's an author. This is a book. Okay, here also a book of grants, but this one is produced by the courthouse. So that might be one I go look at later, but we're going to go look at this one right here. And when I click on it, it takes me to a series of microfilm. In fact, this has 65 rolls of microfilm that have been digitized. And when you search deed records, because they're not indexed digitally, you've got to look in the index to find Henry Putman. So he is the seller. If he's passed away and they're selling his land to divide the profits from that sale amongst his children, we have to go look at Henry Putman, who had the deed and it's being sold. So he'd be a grantor, and it's Putman, so it'd be in this book here, N through S. I'm not going to go through the steps, but I would click over here, go into the index. It's going to be listed alphabetically by surname. Then I would, once I get to P and the PU, I would go down through, the given names are listed then alphabetically. And when I do that, Henry Putman has about 5 pieces of land that he purchased from the early 1800s till almost up to his death. But many of those transactions are when he gives the property or sells it to his children. Okay, but he does have a chunk of land left that he sells in 1833. And I find in this index, when I click on this and go to it, that Henry Putman is listed with a piece of property that's being sold in 1833, and it's in book 39. So taking that information, I'm gonna scroll down further on this page, and here are all the deed books listed. They start out alphabetically, and then they're going to go numerically. And here's book 39. Okay, and my index led me here to this book. Notice there's 2 books in this. So if I were in book 40, I know right away I'd be looking in the latter half of this book. And what we're going to do is enter the digital record here of the actual digital images they took of this deed book. So the LDS Church went around to most courthouses in the 1950s and 60s, pulled these deed books off. And remember the woman I showed you who was filming? I don't know if the equipment was quite that sophisticated back then, but they digitized these pages. So many courthouses, especially deed records, have been digitized and are available here on Family Search. The problem is they're not indexed. You have to go find it. So first thing I want to do is write down this film number so I don't forget what film book 39 is in. And then I want to make sure I'm in the right book. So I'm going to look here, and if I pull this up a little closer, here's deed book 39, 1833 to 34. So I know I'm in the right book. Now I also found in the index that his deed record was from pages 34 to 37. So I've got to click on some of those digital images to see where the page number is. Am I above it? Am I below it? And you play this game of clicking on the images till you find page 34. And here's page 34. And over here says Beatty to agreement, Putman et al., which means there's more than one Putman. When you say et al., means there's a group. So that makes me feel good. Here's March 1833. And if you read this, here's Henry Putman, Mary Sanders, 3 latter acting for themselves for the heirs of Henry Putman. So I know this is the right deed. But this, if I'm going to save you time from not having to read through all this, Thomas isn't listed on these 2 pages. So I'm going to turn and go to the next 2 pages. And sure enough, when I come down here and read, here's an indenture made the 18th of April, 1833. And oh, we love deed books when they do this. They not only list all his sons, they list the daughters with their married names. Here's a little box that was written in because they forgot to put it in when they were writing it. Here's Mary, and she marries a Sanders. Sarah marries a Grover. Excellent record. okay? But I haven't found Thomas yet. But we read farther, and it states right here, being all the heirs of law of Henry Putman, the elder, now deceased, except for the infant children of, and here's my direct descendant, Thomas Putman, deceased, who was one of the children and heirs of the said Henry. This is what I need for my DAR application, because I need to prove that Henry was the son, or not Henry, Thomas was the son of Henry. So excellent. So I would copy, and here's where it's underlined, and you can read it a little bit better. When you're in your book pulling this information out, we get excited about the data, but you got to remember the citation information. So you want to make sure you get the deed book. The page number that this is actually on is page 36. You might want to make a note that the deed is 4 pages long and there's several parts to it. And I like to put the image because it allows me to click right into it if I have to go back to it. And most of the time, there's something I forgot and I have to go back to it. So that's how you would use the catalog. You would find a category, put a place, and then when you go into that county, or you can even do it at the state level, but then I think you want to drill into the county, and if it's a big city, into the city and see what collections are available. And then you've got to go to the index books, find the page, find the book, and drill deeper. So that's how you would use a catalog. Okay, so now we're at how to find records using the family tree. And I wish I could see all of you right now, but I can't. I'd love to know how many of you actually have used the family tree, built on it, or have used it to find records. A lot of people who poo-poo the family tree because it's a very unique tree. It is different than Ancestry because in Ancestry, you create your own family trees. They're your trees. You can make it public. You can make it private. You can allow people to edit it, but very few do that. It's a read only. On Family Search, this family tree here is what I call a collaborative tree. It's not your tree. You might have a little branch on that tree, but the tree belongs to everybody who uses it. And what you're going to do, and this is a new concept, I call it the 21st century concept for genealogists, is it allows you to collaborate. You can find other ancestors. You can broaden your tree, find ancestors maybe you didn't have, brothers and siblings of great-grandparents, but you also can find out who's entering that data, and it will give you a link to email them, and you're finding cousins. You're finding other people who are related to this ancestor just like you, and you start collaborating with them. How do you know this is true? Do you have any more records? And boy, the golden find is to find a photograph that you've never had from one of these cousins. So I like the family tree because it allows you to collaborate. And I think that is such a valuable tool. So let's look at the family tree here. We're going to go up to the menu here. And we're going to click on family tree right here. And we're going to search. And remember, our goal right now is to search for records. Can we find any records of our ancestors on this family tree? So we get a search page where we're going to fill in Henry Putman. Already did it for you here. We know he's born in Virginia. Here's his birth and death range. Here's his residence. And we're going to go down here and click find. Oops. Well, that wasn't quite what I wanted. Okay. So when I click on that, it takes me into a set of names. Look at, there's 2 Henry Putmans here. This first Henry Putman is born in 1794. He's born in Culpeper County, but remember our man was born in the mid-1700s. This guy dies 1853. This isn't my man, could be his son. Remember that Henry Putman Jr. in the census? But here's Henry Putman. He's married to Elizabeth. We're going to click on him. And when you do, you get a little profile card. And here it tells me a little bit more about him, his birth. But here's what I like, 6 sources, 3 memories. This means there's photos or documents. Collaboration. This means there might be a little discrepancy or a little dialogue going on between 2 or 3 people. on records that are here on the tree on Henry Putman. So we're going to click again and go into his profile. So right away, when you get to their profile sheet on the tree, usually I have a picture here, but old Henry doesn't have a picture. So this is some document that's listed for him. And you have a little menu bar across here, details, timeline. It kind of lists Henry with the dates of his births of all his children inserted, deaths of his siblings, and sometimes even some historical events that occur. But here's the big one, sources. There are 6 sources listed for Henry Putman. That may give me a clue or a hint or a new document that I could use. Right away, there's a life sketch, and here's the collaboration. There are 2 Henry Putmans. This is a collaboration I've been working on for a while. There are 2 Henry Putmans, both come out of Culpeper County, supposedly, both fought in the Revolution. One is in South Carolina, one is in Mason County, Kentucky. Many researchers have them together. They have the guy from Mason County, Kentucky dying in South Carolina. They've merged their kids together. So what I'm trying to do, this is where some people don't like this tree. People can override you and change things because the tree belongs to everybody. And so I try to give my information, I try to argue my point, and then you have to kind of let it go because it's not worth getting all upset about. I know all my information on Henry on my ancestry tree is accurate. The information in my computer database is accurate. And I just have to keep working with these other cousins of mine. And then some are cousins because if they're related to the dude over in South Carolina, they may not even be related. So you have to work, and that's where the collaboration comes in. So let's look at the collaboration, and here's the discussion. There are 2 Henry Putmans, one in Kentucky and one in South Carolina. And this is my Word document that I copied and put in here. And it has the argument that, you know, Henry lived in Mason County, his kids all got married there, his property was probated there. I try to give the argument. So it's that aspect of collaboration that some people buy into and others don't want to deal with at all. But let's go back to Henry here, and we're going to look at the sources. This is really what we want to know. So when we click into sources, unfortunately, the 1794 one is for his son and his bride, and it's a marriage record. And then we have Henry Putman here signing a document, a marriage record for Clark Sanders, who marries one of his daughters. But look here, here's Henry Putman and a Thomas and Nancy. These are my direct descendants. So I want to look at this. What is this 1810? It's not a census, it's a marriage record. I don't have a marriage record for these 2. So let's click on that and see what it takes you to. And here's where it takes you to the source of the source. We've got Henry listed on this. It's his son, Thomas. He gets married in 1810. He goes next door to the county, Lewis County. Okay, so it gives me all the transcription and the information, but look down here. It gives me a digital copy. So I can click on that, and here's the actual digital copy out of the marriage book for my relative, my direct descendant, Thomas Putman. And Henry's name is in here. He actually certifies and gives consent for Henry, the father of Thomas. It even says he's the father of Thomas. I mean, I'm doing my happy dance when you find a document like this. So you can use the family tree to go look at your ancestors and see what sources have been added to them and can you use them? Is it one maybe you haven't accessed yet? Okay, so we've looked at tools under search. We've looked at how to access historical records, how to access Wiki, how to access the catalog, and how to access the family tree. So now, this is going to be my challenge. We're going to talk about the new tool that they've added the last couple of years called Memories. And I'm going to actually go to Family Search online, live, and research there. So I'm going to stop my share here. Whoops. Let's see, I want to go to share screen. You're going to have to work with me here. And I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to go to Family Search. Does everybody see the opening page for Family Search?
Yes.
Good. All right, I'm going to go to the family tree. We've searched here. Remember, we've looked at many of those. You might want to go look at their digital books. Their genealogies are where you can upload a GenCom. If you don't want anybody messing with your tree, you could put your tree here on Family Search under genealogies, and it's read-only, okay? Images is a new tool. I tried to play with it and learn how to use it. It's recently been added since COVID hit. It's very new. I really couldn't see the benefit of using it, but hopefully they're going to improve on it. You might want to go there and see how it works. But we're going to go to the family tree here. And when you go to the overview, it talks about their tree and how to start the tree, okay? So if you're a beginner, this is a good place to go to start learning how to use the tree. But then there's a submenu here, tree, and when I click on that, I've been offline too long, so I have to register back in. Are you looking at a family tree here?
Yes.
Good. Sometimes when I have to go. So this is my tree, okay? I've started it a number of years ago. Here I am in the middle. You have some icons over here. The little house means it takes you back to whoever you set up. It should be yourself as the home person on your tree. You can make this larger or smaller, or landscape. I don't like the landscape. I like this version better right now. First of all, I want to tell people when you enter and start a tree, you're going to start with yourself, and there'll be a little button that says start tree if you've never started one. When you start, you should start with yourself, and once you put in your name, the very next thing they ask you, is this the person living or deceased? And that's really important because when you click on living, none of that information will be revealed to anybody but you. They will just see living Simmons for me, or if it was my husband, living Robertson, and that's it. There will be no data shown. When I go back and fill in a death date for somebody, for example, let's say I had an aunt that died last week, I can go fill that in, and when I click death, it then opens it up to the public to see. So your tree is private with people who are living. So my tree is started here. You're looking at my tree. You would not see this version if you clicked on it. But once we get over here to Walter, my grandparents, who have all passed away, you would see them on my tree and you would see the data on them, okay? These little arrows are what advance the tree. And so I'm gonna advance this one here. Well, first, I'll advance it just to show you how you can grow this tree here. And then it keeps going. Okay, and these arrows just keep going and going and going. And eventually you're gonna hit one where you're gonna say, whoa, this is not my family. And so then you gotta work at cleaning it up and working on it. That's why some people love this tree or hate this tree, okay? I love it because of the collaboration aspect. I can go look at who's entering data and ask them questions and see if they have other documents they haven't uploaded yet to Family Search, and we can dialogue. So you can meet cousins. And I like it because I think the Family Search tree hits a lot of the LDS church who don't maybe use Ancestry or other databases. And so it's a way to connect with a whole different group of people. This is free. And so there's a lot of people who don't pay to belong to Ancestry. So it's a way, again, to find people who are researching the same ancestor. So we're gonna go to the profile page for Walter, and I'll take you into his profile page. And notice I have a picture of Walter, and here's the subheadings for Walter, and there's 8 sources for him. We click on those sources. Well, before we do, over here on the right side, you can start searching, and they allow you to search on Family Search, or you can click Ancestry if you have a subscription. And I want to give a call out for Ancestry here. Ancestry has a library edition that most libraries have, but their license tells them that they can only allow people to use that collection if they come into the library. Well, since the pandemic, this was one of the few benefits, Ancestry has extended their license, and all libraries will allow you to access that at home if you have a library card and a password. So if you don't have an Ancestry subscription, you can access it right now. If your local library has that database, they have to pay to put that in their collection. And you need a library card and a password. So that's just a research information that you need to know. And you know, we never know when this pandemic's going to let up and the libraries can let everybody back in. They'll probably pull that subscription back, but that's available. It also shows me the latest changes, and most of these changes have been made by me. It also shows what duplicates are here, and I can print out all kinds of charts on my family, okay? But I want to go show you the sources, and let's see if there's any sources that have been put in. Oh, unfortunately, I'm the only one. So early in your tree, I can almost claim this little branch is mine. Nobody else is researching. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of people in my family doing family research. I'm one of the only ones, especially on this Simmons line this far. When I get farther, you're going to see more. Memories, this is what we're going to talk about a little bit later. This is wonderful. This is where you share photos and you share documents. And this is what makes your branch stronger. When you can support your data with documents right here, when you can support it with these documents, you're making that branch stronger, and it's going to be harder for people to argue that the dates aren't correct or the names aren't correct. And then you can also add meat to the bone by adding photos that enrich your tree, okay? So I want to go at this point and talk to you about memories. I wanted to show you the tree just so that you know how to access the sources to find a document you may not have, and then also look at the memories. And we're going to now go back up to this main menu at the top, and we're going to click on memories. And they have an overview that tells you a little bit about how this works. You can put photos, you can put documents, you can add stories, and I have not used this one, but there's a tool where you can do audio tape recordings. Let's say I have a recording of my father talking about his first year of enlisting for World War II. My niece did for him. I haven't attached that to his profile page, but that's something I should do. And I'm hoping eventually down the road, when memory becomes less of a problem, they'll even have video. But we're going to go to the gallery here, and this is my gallery. This is my personal gallery. It doesn't belong to anybody else. This is where I collect my photos. Now, people, this is a great backup. I was just reading yesterday about a woman who is a researcher in upstate California right now. She had to pull a pickup in from her brother to pack up all her genealogy in the back of that pickup and drive 100 miles away because her house is in danger of burning. Okay, we don't want that to happen to our genealogy that we've worked for years to do. So we want backups, and we make backups on our computers and our hard drives. But this is a great free place to do backups of your photos and your documents. So that's one big reason why I use this. Not only to connect to cousins and make my tree stronger and put meat on the bones. So here's my gallery, all my photos and documents, and there's a menu here. So I can click on this camera, which would just bring on photos. Now I have a couple documents here. It defaults when you click on this little plus sign and bring in a digital image, it automatically makes it a photo. You can then click on it and make it a document, okay? And so I have some work to do. I have some documents here that aren't listed as documents. I can also click on this icon and go straight to all my documents, okay? Can I search for a document? Yes, over here there's a little magnifying glass and I can search. You name all your documents and give them a title. And it's really important when you start this project to figure out how you're going to name them so you're consistent. I always do the surname, comma, then the given name, and maybe the date of the document or the picture. There's another icon. Here's the one for audio, which I don't have. But this is a project I've started in the last 2 years, is writing stories about my ancestors. And I write these stories and post them on a blog. And my nieces and nephews have just flocked to my blog to read about these ancestors, especially the more current ones like my father, grandfather. But these are stories that I can add also to Family Search. So for example, here's Jonathan. And here's all the pictures here. He was a Revolutionary War soldier in the state of Maryland. I usually give them a little bit of, I've joined into the Amy Johnson Crow 52 Ancestors in 52 Weeks, and she gives you a prompt, and this prompt was service. And so I do a little bit of genealogy that shows how Jonathan's related, the lineage, and then I write a story. I try to keep it to about 800 words. On my blog, the pictures are interspersed within the little paragraphs there, but all these pictures have to deal with Jonathan Grover. So here's his gravestone, here's his military enlistment, and it just goes on, and I share the story. And when you add photos and documents, it just pulls your nieces and nephews in. Okay, so that's another way to sell them. And then I can preserve them. They're going to be here when I'm gone. The Church of the Latter-day Saints is not going to go out of business. I'm sure all of you heard in the last 2 weeks how Ancestry was sold. What's going to happen to our data? They kind of try to comfort us and tell us it's all safe, it's okay, they're just bought in, we're going to stay the same, but we never know. But the church is pretty stable. I don't think they're going to give up on doing research, and so I like putting my legacy, my work that I've done into Family Search for that reason. So over here, this little menu bar over here, you can put, if I'm back to my photos, I can put them in this grid form, or I can list them and it puts them in a listing. I can arrange them alphabetically. I can go get ones that have no titles yet. I have some work to do. Event dates, not in an album, and private. This tool has just been added, I think last week, to memories. And I've always wanted a private because I've got pictures of my grandchildren in here and I would like to make them private. And so now I can. So you can go in and I'll show you as we work through this. You can create, I like the grid format, so we'll go back to that. You can create albums and you want to be consistent there, however you decide to name your albums and go into them. So let me see, here's the family. And so you can add pictures. They stay in your gallery, but you can also pull them over and put them in a, here's the grandchildren I'm going to make private. Okay, so I would click on their picture and make private, and it puts a little, make it private, and it puts a little lock on it. Okay, so that's a great new tool that they've used. Okay. I'm just going to wrap up here on how to add a photograph. How would you add something to this? Okay, you're going to go up here to this little plus sign. And you're going to click on it, and it allows you to come over here to access your digital files. And so I've got a folder here on an ancestor of mine. This gentleman, who's the father of this family, was in the Mexican-American War and he was in the Civil War. And so I've started doing more work on him. I'm going to add one of his children here, Cornelius, and we're going to add, I think this is his, you know, we could add a record of his. And then I'm going to say open. And here it brought those two in right here. So if I click on him, I can click right away and go up here and give him a title. Okay, and save it. And then there's all kinds of information over here you can add to it. What's the date of this picture or document? Where's the place? But the other feature I love is you can tag it. So if you click on a new picture and it's got a face, you can tag it. Make this as big as you want because this will also be his profile picture when I get done with this. And then I can name it. So I name it, let's see, Cornelius. Okay, And I'm going to add it, but I haven't been to the tree yet. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's not going to take him till I go to the tree. So that's how you can do that. Go back to the gallery, and I've got his document here too. Oops, it's the latter part, second half of his World War II record. But let's go to my tree, and I'll show you how you pull them into the tree, and that'll be the last little thing I share with you today. So we're going to go to the tree, and I'm going to go find my ancestor, Lewis, his father, Holmes Davis. And he was born in New York. We'll see if it finds him in my tree. Here he is, right here, 1826, New York. I can go to my tree now, go to his profile, and I've added a photo of this gentleman in my tree. So here's the photo of him, here's the details. I want to go down to his son, Cornelius. He was married twice, so I've got his first wife here. Whoops. Oh, yeah, here's his first wife, Elizabeth. She died before he came home from the Civil War, but she had a daughter. He remarries out in Iowa and has a whole slew of kids. And here's Cornelius. So we're going to click on him, and I'm going to show you how to pull the picture into him. So here's Cornelius. We go to memories, and I have a photo of him, and I'm going to upload it from my gallery. You can actually go straight to your files on your computer, but I've already added him. So I'm going to go to, and this is him right here, and we're going to attach down here at the bottom, and I'm going to attach him. And the processing means this is part of their security. They're going to make sure whatever you post is a nice picture, okay, and something that can be used here in. So now I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to tag him again because I didn't have him in the tree. So I'm going to tag him and show you how I can put him in the profile, and then we're going to open up for questions. So here's Cornelius. And Davis. Oh, he had a middle name. I think it was George. And because this is such a huge tree, it needs that. So here he is. I'm going to tag him, and he's up here. Now, if I had a picture with him and 3 of his brothers, I would tag each of his 2 brothers. They would be added here, and they add the picture to their profile page. So you only have to enter a picture once in your tree and then tag all the people that are in it, and it puts it into each one of their profile pages. So that's a really nice tool too, also. So this is Cornelius. Here's his profile picture. And if I go back to him in the, oh, and then you've got all kinds of actions. Sometimes we bring in the picture and it's sideways, and we can add it to my Davis album. So here's my Davis family, so I can click and put him right in there right away. I can put it in my favorites. Oh, and this tool, I love this one. You can share it on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. I could email my sister and say, hey, look at this new picture I just found of Uncle George. So it's a great tool to share. You can make this picture public or private right here. But we're going to go over, yeah, we're going to go over here to Cornelius, go back to him. Maybe. Get out of this thing. There we go. And I'm just going to show you how to do his profile picture. This is so much fun to put pictures into all your ancestors. So I'm going to use this picture here. And I'm going to shrink him down a little bit, situate him, and save his portrait. And you probably won't get to see it right away because it's got to go through a little proofing, and then it will show up. Okay, so the family tree, like I said, you love it or hate it. I kind of love it. I like finding the cousins. I like putting my photos and my documents into memories. I have close to 800 now. I need to work on titling them and attaching them to the tree. It gives more meat to my trees. I add my stories. So it's a great way to expand your research and to save your work. All this work you've done, post it and have a place where it's going to be saved for years, where people can access it and use it. So I'm going to go back to the home page and I'm going to open up for questions. I don't know if any have been coming in on chat.
Yes, Nancy.
Okay.
There's a question from Deborah. D1, can anyone else use your gallery items?
If you don't make them private, they could. I'm pretty sure. You can search. This is really weird. This one here. When you, let me show you. Well, this top menu here. This is your gallery. When you click on people, it shows you who in your tree you have added photos to. So these are all the profile pictures of my ancestors, but people could access that. But this find, this is a universal find for all photos on Family Search that have been made public. So if I put in Walter Simmons, you'd be amazed how many people have the same name as your ancestors. So these are not my photos. These are photos of people on Family Search. And so I have not been able to ever find because it's just too broad. But the answer for Deborah would be yes, it's anybody can use them if you make them public and add them to your tree.
Tom said his family is also from Mason County during the same period as yours.
I wonder what
Terry,
that's like.
I don't know who Tom is, maybe Mercer.
You'll have to email me.
Yep, and then there's a Terry Chambers says, can you search a residence to see who lived there or business address of was in the building?
Well, my first thoughts are you would go to a city directory. Sometimes that tells who's living. If there's some of the adult children are living at home, they would be listed in that directory, usually underneath, and it has their place of residence, the same address. So that would tell you who is living in that home. Census records are going to tell you who's living in a home. If you research those census from 1850 on, it has 1850 to 1870 tells you who's living in that household. They may not be a direct descendant. It doesn't say if they're a child or a grandchild or a niece or a nephew. But when you get to the 1880 census up through the 1940, it will tell you the relationship of the people in that household. For businesses, again, I would go to city directories. And you can find those on Family Search by going to a certain city and looking for their directories. That's what I would, that's how I answer that.
Jane Ward asked, how many photos can you upload at a time to the gallery?
That is a good question. Unfortunately, I think you can only upload one at a time. So I take time to say, okay, I'm going to work on this family. I upload it, I name it, I put the dates. Sometimes I get to tagging them. Sometimes I just try to add them to the gallery. You can universally, how is it? There are some ways that you can click in your album and tag them, but I'd have to research that a little more. I really don't have a real hard answer for that one, but I'm pretty sure you can only upload. Unfortunately, that's one of the downfalls, that you can only upload one picture at a time. But that may change because they've been working on memories and increasing its capabilities daily, weekly.
Here's a question from Fran.
Okay.
Do you have to have a tree before you upload pictures?
No, no. You can go straight to memories and start adding photos. So you could create your own albums and your own little grid or gallery where you can put all those photos and documents. Yeah. Don't need a tree.
And you got
only to attach them to an ancestor.
Many people saying thank you for your wonderful presentation.
Well, I really appreciate everybody coming today and sharing. I love this memory tool that they have on Family Search, so I'm so glad I got to show it to you. I hope you found something that you could use or some way or some tool that you can use to drill in and find more documents for your ancestors. And again, happy hunting and thank you for coming today.